Welcome back, travelers. And as you can see, it's me and Joe, my crustaceous cheap steak co-host. Cheap steak?
Cheap
Cheap
steak.
steak.
But
Say
they
hi,
call me
Joe.
Texas Roadhouse.
This is legendary lore, but it's a little different this time.
Again?
Yes, more lore of the legendary variety. We're going to be talking about
Oh,
the different parts of Kaldheim. Kaldheim came out by this point 2 months ago. But we wanted
it
to make
wasn't
sure
as
that
highly requested until now.
yeah, it's gotten a lot more people like asking about it, so we're going to go ahead and do them. We wanted to make sure first off that the story was out, but we've also been doing a lot of the Blazing Emeralds. But that's enough of that for now. We're going to talk about Lathril. Joe, do you know who Lathril is?
You already lost me.
Lathril is the green-black legendary elf from the commander decks associated with Kaldheim. So
Yes, okay. I wanted to
yes,
get that commander deck actually, but the foretell one's way better.
that is a fair assessment. But Lathril is super cool, and you're going to find out why.
They seem really cool. Is that a male or female elf?
She is a female elf,
She
but
seems really cool.
she's not really going to be an elf for very long.
Okay, go on.
You see, basically, it starts off with her already in the transformation. It talks about how she her entire that everything has kind of like expanded but at the same time narrowed vision wise, and she's like kind of get used to it. What's happening is that she has taken part in a like a ritual kind of deal to become a god.
Hmm.
Since she takes the mantle of godhood, and so by doing that she has become much much more than an elf, and she is now going to be like that's her main thing, right? But this is like way, way, way in the past. This is before the current gods. This is before Halvar and Valky,
What do you mean
all
it's in
those
the
different
past?
characters. Alrund. This is when the elves were the top banana of the entirety of the food pyramid. So
So is what's her face not a current character in our Kaldheim story?
no, in the current story, Lathril is more of a myth, of a legend, something that they talk about in the
Like real men
modern.
of genius.
Yes, exactly.
Mr.
No.
Previous Elf used to be in God in the Past guy.
Um, so basically, this is the way it works. Since they're elves, they have a much deeper connection to the nature of things and stuff like that, right? She's there. She's like she goes into like her home and all that stuff, and she reaches for her sword because something has its nose in her face, and she's like, "I'm gonna kill it." And then she realizes it's not trying to eat her; it's a wolf, a copper wolf. And so when she sees this thing, she sees it like there's like this like silvers and golds and white and like all these other like shining colors in like woven into this wolf's fur, right?
Mhm.
This is basically her seeing eye wolf. Basically, the she realizes this is probably like some kind of like emissary of Sarulf. Do you remember who Sarulf is?
That's one of the current gods, right?
It's not a god. It's a cosmos monster, similar to Coma. So Rolf is the green black one that as things die around it, it basically eats them and gets stronger, and eventually it can just explode and exile everything around it. It's
I don't know if
delicious.
I've seen that one yet. That sounds like it goes in Marin though.
Yes, it would. It's hilarious,
I've
but
been looking at other death decks now that Kells is being finished.
that makes sense.
I
But yeah,
like that I have my two Juggernaut decks that are Marchesa and Narset, and I consider the blue and the black to be the toxic parts of me, and just like, well, let's make a deck based off of those.
pretty much. So
My deck building aside, let's hear about Kaldheim more.
yes. So basically, what happens is that she goes along with this wolf, and she walks down like the pathway. She can't really see anything because she's still getting used to her godhood and all that other stuff. It's like a ton of power that she's having to like like to control, right? It's manifested itself inside of her, and so she follows the wolf, and they go along a bunch of different stuff, and like they move like with a lot of like swiftness and a lot of like fluidity to it, and eventually they she realizes that she is nowhere where she thought she was. She is just somewhere in the middle of the woods, and she sees a human girl who's like 11 or 12, and she's like,
Does this
"When
turn
did
into a
I?"
horror story?
No. What happened
You
was
see a
that,
little girl in the woods. It's usually a horror story.
well, no, she has a little wolf pup with her, or at least she should.
She's not a ghost.
No, this little girl is
She's not
terrified,
going to come out of a
actually.
TV.
And basically, Lathril shows up. She saves the little girl because, hold on, let me make sure that I have it right.
Mhm.
Okay. So this little girl is actually being attacked by these guys called the Draugr. Now, in the modern day, the Draugr are zombies. They're all zombies, right?
Oof.
They're all part of the Dreadmar and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure these Draugrs are not zombies yet because that
So
whole
this is what the
deal.
joggers used to be.
Yes, exactly. And so they're
What
attacking
kind of
this little
creatures are
girl.
they?
The what?
What kind of creatures are the jogger?
Basically
Or
just
were they
humans.
just like a tribe of humans?
Yeah, they were just a group of humans
More
before
like
they
a
became.
clan?
Yes. And
Okay.
so the little girl with her wolf thing, the little girl is there and she's scared. And then Lathril shows up, kind of just completely emasculates the two guys, and she finds the little baby wolf and brings it to her. And
Baby wolf.
so um, this is let me
Oh,
just
baby.
well, actually, right here, if I check this right here, it says uh, she goes to the yeah, she made it to the wolf and girl and her wolf, and then knelt. She goes, "Can I help you?" The girl took a deep heaving gasp to collect herself, then carefully peered up from the wolf's shoulders. Her eyes were aqua with no pupil, trending toward white. "They took my wolf," the girl howled. That's some solid writing. But it's actually really cool. You guys really should read the actual article itself if you want, because it's got a lot more to it than just the that little bit that I just said. But eventually, Lathril helps her find her wolf. She's like beats up all those Draugr guys, and it's really cool because by doing that, she then takes the little girl and her wolf to this elder who is another human, and she's like, "Hey, I found one of your kids." She's like, "Oh yeah, you did. Where's your wolf?" And the little girl's like, "Well, he ran away." And she goes, "And what did you do?" She goes, "Well, I was gonna fight the bad guys that were going to kill me, but then she showed up, so I didn't have to. And so she brought me back." And
Wolf
that's
my
when she goes.
wolf.
Now, what's cool is that the little girl asks Lathril what the wolf's name is. Lathril then tells her that she hasn't told it to me yet, meaning that like the wolf has its own name and it is going to bestow that name on her eventually. Nothing in her card of her legendary creature card talks about a wolf, which I found kind of weird and funny. It just like
Maybe there's stuff of wolves on the deck itself.
maybe, but she's an elf based commander. All her stuff has to do with elves. But
There's like wolf riders in the deck.
that is true. There are wolf riders, mainly fox riders from Eldraine, but like you don't see a lot of wolf stuff, right?
There's just that one wolf rider card. I think it's that deck exclusive though, isn't it?
Is it?
I
Hmm.
don't know actually.
So basically, she does her thing. She saves the wolf pup for the little girl, and she defeats the Draugr, like another like the other member of that group. After doing that, she comes in contact with a giant wolf, Sarulf the Realm Eater, which of course is based off of the wolf that eats everything in the apocalypse, Ragnarok, in Norse mythology. But she meets Sarulf, and Sarulf is like, "You saved one of mine. You saved one of my children. Her name is Lukia." And so Lathril is a god at this point, of course, but she's also humble enough to realize this thing can eat me if it feels like it. So like she acts like she's looking down, like she
Like,
respects.
this is the crux to my Mogi.
Yeah, like she respects the monster. And so that all happens, and he says, as a gift, Uh, where is it? Right here. He goes, I accept the gift she has given me in her service. And then she goes, there's another gift to you. Any of your kind may safely walk my lands and communicate with my beast, regardless of whether they carry my blessing. Lathril nodded, and then they return Kit to the human. Now, because of that, all the elves gain that connection to nature because of Lathril's like this is like a saga, I guess, of I think it's called the Saga of Lathril.
Is that a saga in the set?
No.
That's
Uh,
lame.
so yeah, this is the Saga of Lathril. Because of Lathril's kindness and her humility and her desire to help others, and the fact she helped a human find her wolf, so Rulf blessed her and the entirety of elfdom with the ability to communicate with beasts. Um, and what's cool is at the end of it, an omen path opens, which are the ways that you can travel between your different the mini planes, and Lathril goes through it. Her companion Lucia goes with her, and that's the end of Lathril's story. That said, um, obviously this is like the elf thing. This is part of the reason why the elves have the sense of superiority that they do, that they are the most like they're the rightful heirs of godhood and stuff like that. That's why they hate the gods, is because the original gods were these elves. There's no story talking about how the elves how the gods old gods were thrown away. There's some cards like Binding of the Old Gods that talk about how the old that showed the old gods being put into trees, and there's like little references peppered throughout, but there's nothing that actually explicitly shows it all happening. So you can probably assume that Lathril was bound in the same similar manner and was trapped as a result. Um, but it's just it was a fun story, and it was also the last one released, but it's the first one chronologically, as far as I can tell. So that's interesting.
That's really cool. And I don't know how she'd feel after being bound about that, but bound like that. But isn't it kind of counterproductive that they get all high and mighty, even though Lathril's thing was being all humble?
See, that's the thing, is that's how a lot of legends and stories and religions go. It doesn't
But
matter
they
how
do the
humble.
opposite as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the um no, not Marchesa, Elenda, Elenda the Dusk Rose. She was an extremely humble vampire, and her whole entire deal was purity. And instead, they became conquistadors, and they like basically had like a whole caste system where they subjugated things for their own desires.
Mhm.
So it's like you get to see the source of how everything was, and it's a relatively like happy story. Like, yeah, there's some danger, but the main character is never really in any peril in this particular story. She is powerful, and it's that
Just
power
a
that you
happy
find.
little adventure.
Yeah, it's a romp, but it's cool that it kind of like leads into that, and you kind of get a better feel for what's coming, I guess, best way to put it.
I like it. I like Lathril. I wish we got her in god form.
I would expect that the next time we go to Kaldheim, we will see the old gods unbound due to the events of what happens in the current story. Uh,
Lathril's mad. We know she'll be red.
well, that's the thing, is that there are several elf gods since they were the original gods, so we'll actually get to see,
We'll have elves of like every color.
yes, and we'll get to see them how they interact with the current gods and stuff like that.
I
And
hope they're enemy colors. I'd love an in a is that elf.
that would be cool. But that is this particular story. Joe, close us out. Take it
Thank
away.
you guys so much for watching. This is just the beginning and it was already amazing. So don't forget to subscribe to catch the rest of legendary lore for Kaldheim. We got a lot to go through. We got a lot of gods. Ricky says this one's supposed to be better than story's been, so definitely stay tuned for it.
Yes, it's much better. Much better than Zendikar.
Oh, Zendikar.